John Calipari and Bill Self playing in the 7-10 game in Providence, Rhode Island in the first round. Like, think about that. Think about how insane that is if we had said that prior to the season. You know, Bill Self is always protected, right? Regionally, geographically, because they're always a top 4 seed. Same thing with Cal for the most part. I know they've been bounced in the tournament lately, but again, Cal at Kentucky. So you've got both of them being sent out to New England. When's the last time Bill Self went to New England, Fana? Ever? Has Bill Self ever been in New England?
I don't know. I liked when Big Z asked John Calipari where Providence was, and he said America. Because
Big Z wasn't very happy. Big Z wasn't very happy with Cal's response there, by the way.
But it is fascinating, Jeff. And the linkage to it is, Jeff, is that who do you have waiting for you in the second round?
Slick Rick. The slickest of Rickest. Rick Pitino, not Stansberry. You've got a guy that is going to have the crowd behind him, coached at Providence, is going to have all those Johnny's fans, and Bill Self or John Calipari, whichever one advances, is going to be like, holy shit, no. Like, really, I got to deal with this? Especially Cal. Think about it. Like, Cal was the one who always had more talent than Rick when it was Kentucky, Louisville at the end. It was Rick who was out-talented but was the better X's and O's coach. Now, this thing's even. In fact, you would probably say St. John's is more talented. Certainly, they're a better team and have been all year.
Rob, what's your favorite thing?
Beyond the slickest of Rickest.
You don't like that?
I can't believe that came out of your mouth. My favorite thing in this bracket is that I think that we are going to see carnage in the 5-12, 4-13 games. I think that the way that this bracket kind of broke, it feels like the 12 and 13 seeds are stronger than they've been in past years. You had a lot of teams that were the best team in mid-major or outside the Power 5 structure kind of conferences win their regular season titles and then win their conference tournament titles, right? And I think we have a lot of teams that are good enough to be able to beat some of these high major programs. And I think the way that it kind of just broke down, there are flawed, beatable teams that ended up on those 4 or 5 seed lines in a lot of situations. You got some programs that are dealing with some injuries, and I'm expecting fireworks in those 5-12 and 4-13 games. As I'm sitting here looking at my bracket, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5, 12, and 13 seeds in the second round of the NCAA tournament right here, right now.
Fana, what do you got? What do you got as your big kind of takeaway from this thing last night?
You know, I just think it's the West as a whole. Like, had Florida and St. John's not been in the same region, it's hard to believe you could end up having to take one of those two teams. That would be an unbelievable regional final. But there's so much interest there. Colorado State's as hot as anybody, and now they're going to meet Memphis. And Memphis is obviously a little bit banged up, so I'm interested to see what happens there because we've been talking about the Tigers all season, how they could go on a run. But, man, are they stuck in a tough pod because there's the Crab Five and Derek Queen in Maryland. But then you got Tyon Grant Foster and Jacoby Coles in a Grand Canyon team. Like, that's a really interesting game. Elsewhere, Jeff, the pod for me that I think could be the most entertaining is Michigan, UC San Diego, and A&M and Yale. Here's Yale, who has John Poulikitis. Jeff, like, I got to get your thoughts on James Jones. Because the Bulldogs, here they are again, Ivy League champions. They knocked off Auburn last year. They play efficient basketball. They make a ton of threes. And Poulikitis, for those who haven't watched him, this dude's a stud. I'm taking Yale. I like Yale to take down Texas A&M. And yes, I am going with UC San Diego to knock off Michigan. I don't trust the Big Ten tournament champion. I have issues there. So I believe we will get a 12-13 showdown. I'll tell you where I'm not going as time goes on. The longer time goes on, the more I think we're going to see a Purdue-Clemson game. I'm not buying into McNeese or High Point. I could see High Point just because Purdue's a little bit predictable. But let's stay with that up there in the South, because the other takeaway I had, Jeff, was what was the committee doing giving Auburn a road game if Louisville is to beat Creighton in Lexington? I just like that simple committee stuff. Jeff, I'm not one to complain too much, but I don't like that for Auburn, and I think they deserve better.